Hello and welcome to the podcast Being Human Hidden Depths by Collaboration Global. My name is Jill Tiny and our community has a clubhouse session once a week and the conversations are awesome and we didn't want anyone to miss out, so we've popped them into this podcast so you too can enjoy them. Obviously all around a theme on collaboration, but different topics ranging from how to collaborate in your business to do you have a sixth sense and how to use it. Please enjoy this next hour where our community and our guests come together to have a great conversation.
Random acts of kindness. So let's make this a feel-good session. We have an hour to share our beautiful, wonderful stories of things that have happened to us, things that we have been able to do to other people, for other people. And why should we? Why should we do this random act of kindness thing? What is it all about? And maybe delve a little bit deeper into the psychology of why it works, why it's a good thing to do. And for anyone that's here as well, we are recording this session, so Alan's going to record. So welcome everybody. Welcome to Collaboration Global's club. You can always hit on that little green hut at the top, and that will get you be a member of our little club here on Clubhouse, and then you can follow everything that we do. We're currently meeting on a Friday morning, but that might change in July. We're looking at new times and dates, so watch out for that. And it's lovely to have you here. So I'm going to pass straight over to Gina. Obviously, if anybody is a moderator, if you'd like to hit that button down the bottom to invite people along to the session, the more the merrier. And I'm going to pass over to Gina to tell us, have you had a random act of kindness recently, Gina?
I'm experiencing them on both sides all the time. I think they are, if you like, the currency of moving forward in a positive way. I think random acts of kindness are a really great way of raising your mood, raising your vibration. It's one of those things that the more you are kind, the more the world seems kind to you. And it's an opening up, it's an expanding emotion, if you like, which really enriches you. And so it's one of the things that one of my daily practices is I try very hard each day to do a random act of kindness. But I think it's really important to make the distinction between an act of kindness where it's being used as a form of barter. You know, I'll be kind to you because I want this from you, rather than I'll be kind to you because I choose to be kind to you. Because for me, it feels right, it resonates. And a lot of people engage in bartering. And that's not really, I don't think, the essence of kindness. Kindness is when you're doing something because you want to support or help other people. Nor, I think, is kindness the same when you are doing it because you don't have poor self-worth and you want to feel better about you. And so you only feel you have worth when you are giving kindness to other people. That really is an indication that there's some work to be done on your relationship with you. But kindness is a way of opening yourself out. It's part of the expansion and the deepening of your own evolution. And I think it's a really interesting one where being kind is so important, but being able to graciously receive kindness is another thing. And so, ultimately, we are all connected. So when you're being kind to somebody else in the context of how I've explained it, you are being kind to yourself. You can't do anything to anybody else without being kind to yourself. And it is, for me, it's the currency which helps the world go round. And I would love to see more of it.
I like that. That's a currency. Forget your Bitcoin. Forget your pesos or your euros or dollars or whatever. It's a currency.
It's a currency of abundance, isn't it?
Yes. And that reminds me of, if anyone's come across the Ubuntu movement, started by a wonderful man in, I believe, South Africa. And he's basically creating mini societies. He's got towns and mayors and people to adopt this Ubuntu system whereby money becomes defunct in their communities. And it's not a barter system per se, but it is this, as you say, instinctive, intrinsic acts of kindness to support and help each other. And the more they do it, the more they realise they don't actually need money. It's a fascinating space to watch, and the experiments that he's doing across the world are phenomenal. Thank you for that, Gina. Yeah, it's so true. Have you got a quick act of kindness that someone's done for you that you're like, oh, that was so lovely?
Well, I shared one with you the other day, which I think exemplifies the receiving as well as the giving. I was in America on a course, and I'd booked to stay an extra couple of days. And I went off to do some Christmas shopping. And those of you that know me know that I have spent time completely wheelchair bound, and I was completely wheelchair bound at that time. I went off to the mall, and on the way back, my wheelchair broke down on the mile-long drive to the hotel, very steep, and I ran out of battery. I had no phone that would work because it was in a black area, and there was I couldn't walk. And then a taxi drove up, and the guy got out, didn't speak English, and he parked his car, could see the problem, and he started to push my wheelchair up the hill. And we'd just been talking about receiving kindness, and my partner had been in the course, had been telling me off because I like being kind, but I found it hard to receive at that time. Anyway, the taxi driver was struggling. Somebody else drove up and they helped. And in the long run, there were 17 people pushing my wheelchair uphill. So I was a real spectacle. But what it taught me is that everybody was laughing. Everybody was in a great mood. That being on the receiving end enables other people to give and to be kind. And so for me, the message is, be kind, but also be ready to receive graciously, because that's what makes things go round.
I love that story, Gina, and I'd love somebody to make a movie with that clip in it, because I can visualise it totally. 17 people.
We did look ridiculous, I have to say. 17 people, each pushing the other person, because there wasn't room to hold on to the chair, so they were each pushing the back of the person in front of them. It looked very...
The conga, you should have had some music going. Wonderful. You'll remember that forever, won't you? I love that story. Thank you. Now, I know Francis is often doing the school run at this time in the morning, but Francis, have you got a story to tell, or do you want me to pass on to Ben?
Yeah, no, pass on for the moment. I should be in the office in about 5 minutes, so I'll be able to have a clear signal to talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then. Ben, the culture guy, welcome. This is your first session with Collaboration Global. We happen to be on Clubhouse this time. Welcome as our newest member. Hasn't even been to a meeting yet, but you love the philosophy. And Random Acts of Kindness is your fault, actually. The reason I'm doing this today is what you started when we had our one-to-one earlier in the week, and we got on so well. It's the house on fire. It was just, the energy was brilliant, and you went, I'm going to send you my book, just like that. And I'm like, oh, that's kind. Didn't think about that. And I've got it sitting next to me, actually, and I'm using your pen that you sent as well. And it was just like, it was totally unexpected, totally unnecessary. But really, to receive that in the post.
Are you into Clubhouse?
Not only did you say you were going to do it, which other people have said, and nothing happens,
but you see Mum's photo that she's got on Clubhouse?
So first and foremost, publicly, thank you so much. That was your random act of kindness that made my day, and that has been the spark for a LinkedIn post. Has been a spark for this conversation today. Because as soon as people start telling about, oh, somebody did this for me, somebody did that for me, people don't often say what they've done for other people. So if you've got a story apart from that one, that's a perfect example of what you do for other people. But, let's just have a feel-good Friday to set us up for the weekend. Now. What is a random act of kindness that's happened for you, and what do you try and do as well, apart from the book giving thing?
As I can smell it now.
I'm glad it sparked the conversation, and I think, it probably needs a little bit of contextualizing, because as Gina says, a little bit of it is a barter. I give my book out, people recognize me, more of the things that I do get out there, so there is a little bit of marketing in it, so it's not all kindness, but I do, even when I send it, I do try and put a personalized note in. I often address the envelope with something quite interesting, so when it comes through the door, the envelope's got a kind of title on it that's quite funny and things like that, so just to add a little bit of joy to people. But in terms of people who have given random acts of kindness to me, what I always find is it doesn't necessarily need to be something that's social media worthy. For me, somebody that's knew something was going on in my life and just phoned, somebody that I wouldn't normally speak to, just phoned up and said, "How you doing today? Just checking in." That to me makes all the difference. And it doesn't need to be massive. It just small things that say you're important because I'm thinking of you. That is really, really important to me. When those little phone calls that come in just make such a difference.
It's a couple of days ago, yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. And I'm blessed by people that ring up and I'm like, "Oh, hi, how can I help you?" And no, I'm just asking, "How are you?" And like,
exactly.
Oh yeah, that's me. And it's like, oh, and you brought up short because somebody's taken the time out to pick the phone up, and not just a little text, which is lovely as well, but actually a phone call to say, "And how are you doing?"
And I think it's for people like us who are generous and are trying to collaborate and are trying to kind of make the world a better place by giving. For people to do that to us, it's really quite moving because we're usually the ones that are doing it.
Yes, indeed. And it kind of begs the question, I think I saw this on a TV programme somewhere, that there's no such thing as a selfless act. So even if you are giving someone randomly, you're going, "Oh, there we go," sharing a smile, walking along the road sharing a smile. Actually, there's always going to be something that comes back to you, if you call it karma or whatever. They give you a beaming smile back, they're like, "Oh, hello," and they didn't realise that there's other people out there that can see them, can acknowledge them, and then you get kind of acknowledgement back as well. Yeah. There's always a payback. I remember one of my stories of random act of kindness that I did is I was driving along to a meeting late, sort of 7:30 at night, pouring down with rain, and I got to a roundabout and there was somebody broken down in the middle of the roundabout and everyone was just driving past, and I'm like, "Oh no, I can't just drive past." So this is before mobile phones, right? So I pulled over as safe as I could next to this person. It was a little old man. He must have been about 80, and he didn't know what to do, didn't know what day of the week it was. He's very confused and very upset. So I managed to get him out of his car, put him into my car, pulled over, make sure he was safe. "Sit there, I'll go and sort your car out." So I'm in the middle of a roundabout, pouring down with rain, asking people to help me to get his car from the push it, because it was broken down, from the roundabout to the side. Then I managed to knock on somebody's door, call the AA, get him a cup of tea, and then he was fine after that. The AA turned up, and he went, and it was lovely, and I felt very proud of myself that I'd actually stopped, because he was desperately in need of some support. And by which time, of course, I couldn't go to the meeting. But you know what? I never wanted to go to that meeting in the first place. So I felt like I had a really good excuse. I was going under duress, and I was like, "Well, what can you do?" I was doing a random act of kindness, and I'm going to go home now because it's obviously too late. And if I go to the meeting now, it'll be finished by the time I get there. So I think there's always some. It wasn't an ulterior motive. That isn't why I stopped. But at the same time, karma comes back to you, and there's always a good thing at the end of it. And even if it's just a smile from someone or a thank you, it makes you feel good. Brilliant, Ben.
Absolutely. And I think that I heard a story yesterday, really quick. I heard a story yesterday about when the pubs reopened. There was an elderly gentleman that had been isolating by himself, so he put his best suit on and he went to the pub and he sat down at his table to have a pint and just celebrate the fact that he was allowed out again. But obviously all the pubs have now gone, order on the table, scan this code, order on your phone, and he, bless him, he didn't have a clue. And he was sat there for about 20 minutes watching everybody else get drinks delivered to the table, not knowing what's going on. And then eventually the person at the table next to him came over and said, "Can I help? Do you need some help with anything?" And they bought him a drink. And then they sat down and had this great conversation where he was regaling stories of his past. And they just built a beautiful friendship just out of this one act of buying this bloke a pint. It's fascinating to hear those stories.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And especially small things that end up being a lifetime friendship or something. They met by accident and it was only because they reached out for something. Yeah, that's lovely, man. Thank you very much for that. Awesome. It's just gone 8:15 now, so I'm thinking that Francis might be free. You've got a story, Francis, and then you can reset the room for us. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Jill. Yeah, I'm sitting here in all of this driving and thinking about so many, and I'm trying to think, okay, which ones do I pick? But there's one that keeps on popping in my head, and I'd like to share this one. many years ago, I think it was 2009 when I lost my business. I was 2 weeks away from losing my house, and we had very little money. Anyway, cut a long story short, I decided to start my business again, my new IT company. And I worked from home, and I was literally putting little ads in the local newspaper just to go and fix people's PCs. And one of my long-standing friends, who's also a client of mine, he knew what happened, so he obviously left the old company, came back to me with my new company, and dropped a check into the front door. Now, that check could have been for £5, £100, whatever, but what he did, he paid the entire year's support money in one check. So we got a check through the door for £4,500. I'll never forget it as long as I live.
Wow. Yeah. Bless him. Absolutely bless him. Is he still with you now?
He is, yeah. So, so for me, it's amazing that some people can actually just go, you know what, this person really needs your help right now. And he's just dead, and I'll never forget it. I saw him again 2 days ago. He came to visit me at my office. Wonderful man. I think there's so many good people on this planet. It's just not funny. And sometimes, when you're really on your knees, those people, they come out of the woodwork, ones that you don't even, that you would never expect. Anyway, so that's my story. So let me reset the room, Jill. So, welcome everybody. This morning we are talking about acts of kindness, which for me is a great topic. Because if you just start looking, you'll see it in abundance. And people would like to hear your story, come and share yours. We try to just show people on the planet how many good people there are, and I'm sure you've got loads. So if you're a moderator, can I remind you, please click on the little plus sign at the bottom and invite all the other people, because I bet there's loads of people that would want to share their act of kindness with everybody. And of course, we're doing this, the Collaboration Global, this room, we do every single Friday morning between 8 and 9, and we discuss different topics, and it's all about collaboration. And Jill runs an amazing business where she pulls people involved to help each other and to collaborate. So that's me done. Over to you, Jill.
Brilliant, thank you, Francis. I'm just welling up with that story of how when this guy saw someone in need and he didn't have to do what he did, but he felt it was the right thing to do. And I bet he's done loads of other things like that for people as well. That's his nature. That's how he wants to help people. I love that. Yeah, and that's sparked loads of other stories in my mind of other people that have done things. I used to work with a teacher who, thought nothing of going in most Sundays.
I thought that just now, actually.
Tidy up the school and paint beautiful murals on the walls, and it was just what he did for that school above and beyond.
But it could have been.
He had a family and he had life to, loads of big social life. But he wanted to give to that school because he loved it.
Yeah, if he's precious about it, I'll buy him another one. Just get Wilson
really,
playing with the ball.
99.9% of humans are awesome. Absolutely awesome, and that's what we're trying to create today. Let's have that feel-good factor.
Well, thank you for thinking.
And somebody else who's awesome, moving on to Dr. Lizzie Berntal. We've had some great conversations this week, Lizzie, haven't we?
We have, and honestly, I think my kindness bank is very much in debt at the moment, because this week has been extraordinary with so many on this platform. Ben's book, Gina spent some time with me. You obviously spent some time with me, and it's just, there are just extraordinary people on this planet. And I think we've been talking about big acts of kindness, which are unbelievable things to do. I think also it's not forgetting those little acts of kindness that can really make someone's day. If you're in the shopping queue and somebody just got like a couple of things, let them go from your bar, when you've got a trolley full, and when you're driving, and let somebody in front of you so they haven't got to wait a bit longer. And I think that's sometimes where those little things get forgotten. And just when I go for a run, I think it's just like saying hello as you run past them, say good morning, or just those little moments that can just sort of show you've noticed people, I guess. I think there is the massive stuff, but I think we should never forget those little bits. And I think lockdown has given us a massive opportunity, traumatic though it's been. Walking the old lady's dog down the road, and picking up prescriptions when she couldn't get out of the house, and those little things which actually don't take much time at all, but to the person you're doing it for can make a massive difference.
I was going to start setting up.
Right.
Oh, I so agree.
I so agree.
And that's why we're all capable of doing something every single day, aren't we? Even if it's just saying good morning to someone. And you can see they might be deep in their thoughts, but when you say good morning, they're like, oh, there's other people out there, I'm not on my own. And that person you say good morning to might have not spoken to another person for days because of this wonderful thing called the pandemic. And you just don't realise what situation they're in, but by making a little effort, teeny little effort, it can make a huge difference. I mean, going back to what Ben was saying, thank you, Lizzie, I'll come back to that in a minute, but what Ben was saying as well about marketing and sending the book out and ulterior motives, Pret also have a marketing budget which they give to their staff, and they ask them to give away so many coffees a day and give away so many lunches a day, so the staff are emboldened to see someone that looks like they would be cheered up by. It will make their day. So, somebody will order a coffee and they go to pay, they go, no, it's on the house, there you go. It's like, oh, that's lovely, thank you. And you go away going, oh, did that just happen? This is a corporation, this is a big company, and they've just given away my coffee. And they say it's similar to a loyalty card, but they're doing it from up front, so nobody has to collect, I bought 5 coffees, so I get one free. It's just like, no, I'm just going to be a normal human being and say, no, it's on the house, go for it. Like you would if you were a landlord in a pub in the old days, it's like, no, have this one on me. The power is in the staff, and the autonomy is with them to make someone's day and have that random act of kindness. And I think you're right, Lizzie, I think it goes back to big acts of kindness and little acts of kindness. And we don't always have to do the massive stuff that Francis has just told us about. But we can do the tiddly little bits as well. And yeah, that's a really good reminder. Thank you. I'm going to say to David, are we another school run chat? Have your little ankle biters been dropped off yet? Do you want to chat, or should we leave you a bit later?
No, give 15 minutes.
Okay. No worries. Well, so I'm going to move on to Ross. Hopefully you've got a brilliant story for us, Ross. Come and tell us, have you done a random act of kindness recently, or has something amazing happened for you, small or large?
Good morning, Jill. I love that. How do you have an amazing story for us? Make it good. I think it goes into two categories. It's the large and the small. I went to a Grand Prix a couple of years ago, obviously pre-COVID, and my wife had done some work for somebody that works for the governing body of Formula One. I'm a huge fan, and he had randomly phoned her to ask her a couple of questions, and he said, "Where are you?" And she said, "Oh, we're at the Grand Prix." And he's like, "Oh, great, come and meet me for dinner, you and your husband." And he gave us these amazing money can't buy tickets. I mean, these tickets were unbelievable. Just because he could, there was nothing that I could do for him in return. It was, he argued about paying for dinner. He's like, no. I was like, please, it's the least I can do. And he's like, no, it's fine. It's not a big deal. And it was very much, it was never on social media. It was never, nobody really knew about it. He just did it because he could. And for me, that's a genuine random act of kindness. The ones that I see on LinkedIn and Facebook and people who tell you about them all the time, I'm very wary of people who tell you how loyal they are. I hate that, the most loyal person you'll ever meet, or, well, if you are, you don't need to tell people, people find out on their own. So I always find that the most authentic, genuine gestures are the ones that most people don't hear about. And actually, people like George Michael, the singer who died a couple of years ago now, wasn't it? The stories that came out about him after he died were unbelievable. Against the grain, I'm not a George Michael fan. I don't like his music. But it made me a fan. after he died, because so many people came out and said, well, actually, he used to visit us in hospital and he gave money for this and that, and complete random act of kindness. Nobody ever found out about it. And I think those are the ones that mean the most, the authentic, genuine gestures. It doesn't have to be big, but yeah, it has to be authentic.
Absolutely. What a great story. I love that. It's authentic, genuine gestures. That's a great phrase. But I'm a little bit perturbed that you weren't a George Michael fan.
I know. I don't like telling people that. It's a bit like telling people you don't like puppies or kittens.
You're on thin ice there, aren't you?
Yeah, it's awful. I actually, the most recent random act of kindness I gave was in a supermarket. It was about 5 minutes before it closed. There was a girl in front of me, and going by the clues, I grew up in a house of females, so I know when it's that time of the month, and she was standing in front of me in her joggers and her hoodie, hair scraped back, and she had a bottle of water, about 3 bars of chocolates, some crisps, and a lot of paracetamol, and a magazine. And she'd forgotten her card, and she was trying to get her iPhone to work so that she could pay contactless, and it wouldn't work, and she had tears in her eyes. There was about 4 or 5 people there who all heard the conversation, could all see it, not interested. So I paid for her shopping. It was like £12 or £15 or something like that, and she was so grateful. But it was quite good for me because she didn't make too much of a big deal about it because she was embarrassed, and she just sort of thanked me and took my phone number, and I gave her a fake phone number because I didn't want her to pay me back, and I would hate it to be one of these people who shared the story of thanking some random guy. I hate that. I don't know whether it's because I'm British or we just don't like that. So I gave her a fake phone number so that she couldn't pay me back, and it was just a small gesture. It was £15 or something. But my sister and family members who have been in that situation, and I know that some women have it worse than others, and she just wanted to get home and go to her bed. So I suppose that probably meant a lot to her, but it was a very, very small thing for me.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Now my question is, because that guy had given you those amazing Grand Prix tickets, was that before or after you did the act of kindness to her? Because sometimes when someone's done something amazing for you, it does kind of rub off, and you want to repay the karma. If they've not been allowed you to repay it directly back to them, you pay it forward.
No, it was years apart. Years apart. I was always brought up like that, certainly in that community, and I think it was because we were very poor when I was growing up. I mean, obviously that's a relative term, but at British standards, we were extremely poor, and we lived in a poor neighbourhood. And I always find now, I mean, I'm certainly not a billionaire, but I'm much better off than my mother was, and I live in a very nice neighbourhood, and I tend to find that the nicer the neighbourhood, the less random acts of kindness. I know that's a pretty sweeping statement, but I think, poorer neighbourhoods, it's more of a community. And I heard somebody mention the guy in South Africa that's making money obsolete, and I think a few people have attempted that over a number of years. But I tend to find that communities which aren't as affluent tend to pull together more than an affluent area. That's just my experience from having lived in both. I tend to find, so we were brought up very much that you were kind to your neighbours. You went to the shop for other people. At that time, it was the 80s. You went to the shop for people. You did all of these small things which are kind of missing now, because people in neighbourhoods don't tend to socialise as much with each other now as I think they did in the past.
That's an interesting observation, actually. I'm not sure whether everyone would agree with that, but it is interesting to kind of look and go, is that true? Is it necessary? Possibly in the 70s and 80s, I was in a similar position to you in that I came from a poorer background, and we all knew each other and we all ran errands for each other and checked on each other. But is that just the era where now everyone's got their nose stuck in the phone and don't even know their next door neighbour's name? It's open to conjecture, but it's a really good point, Ross. Yeah, thank you for that. Hopefully there are more acts of kindness. The more we talk about it, the more we raise it and go, what was the last time you did a random act of kindness? Can't talk today. So when we ask people and they go, oh, actually, have I? And just brings it up to the periphery, and then you find more and more things happen. Love that story about the girl, though, and that you helped her. That's real. That's a gut instinct kicking in there, and the fact you gave her a fake number, brilliant. I would have done that as well. I'm looking at the time. We are racing on, and we've got a few people still to listen to. Francis, could you reset the room for us again, and we'll crack on?
I will do that with pleasure. Before I do that, guess what? I've just had another act of kindness. Somebody I know, which I didn't expect, has just dropped off a basket full of fruit. I wish I could share a photo, but I will do later on social media. And the company that did it was Orchard No. 2 Office. And their website is officefruitdelivery.co.uk. What a brilliant idea.
Awesome.
And this guy drove 68 miles to get here. I'm like, you mad, He said, but I was on my way to my daughter, I'm moving out, so I thought I'll drop you off this. So a lady that sent it to me, her name is Caroline Sommer, S-O-M-E-R, and she runs a design company. What a lovely thing to do. I don't know why she's done it. I don't know why, but she's done it.
Because you're a lovely person, that's why.
I don't know. Don't tell anybody. Anyway, let me reset the room. Welcome, everybody. We're discussing a topic that's very close to my heart, and that's acts of kindness. We see it. We do it. Do we recognize it? Do we go out of our way to do it for other people without expecting anything back? That's what we're discussing today. So we have a lot of people still need to speak. Can I remind you, if you're not following the speakers already, please click on them, follow them. And if you want to follow the Collaboration Global room, because we share so much knowledge every single Friday morning between 8 and 9, click on that little green out at the top. And of course, if you're a moderator, please invite more people, because we only have 26 minutes left. Thank you, Jill. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Francis. So guys, as we've only got a few minutes left, if you can try and stick to a couple of minutes, and we'll keep the conversation going. But the more random acts of kindness we can crack in here, the better we're all going to feel and have a fabulous weekend. Chris, I'm going to come to you. Have you got any great stories for us this morning? Okay, Chris, are you still there? Having a cup of tea? I'll move swiftly on to...
Good morning. I can speak.
Go on, Carolyn. I'll crack on then, if you're available.
I know it's my first time, so...
Woohoo! Oh, no, she's pushed the wrong button. Is she going to come back? Caroline, as opposed to Carolyn, are you available to talk, my love?
Yes, good morning, Jill. Good morning, everybody. I was just listening to what everyone's saying. You know me, everyone turns left and I turn right. So I thought I would bring that into today as well. So I'm just thinking in terms of, can we really do genuine acts of kindness when we are not kind to ourselves? And when Francis was resetting the room a moment ago, he talked about, can we recognize these acts of kindness? And if we're not kind to ourselves, can we therefore really recognize when a random act of kindness is perhaps happening to us, or can we really appreciate it? I don't know. It's just some thought that I was having, thinking we're not always terribly kind to ourselves, and surely once we start becoming kinder, and especially in the way we talk to ourselves, then that then starts to radiate outwards. And that's perhaps when the random acts of kindness become more genuine.
Oh, I love that, Caroline. Thank you. That is so true, isn't it? If you're in a bad place and you're hating yourself for whatever reason, I've put on a pound this week, or I didn't do as much work as I should have done, I haven't been for a run, I've eaten a chocolate donut, I've watched too much rubbish TV, I've had an argument with my brother or sister or whatever. All these things we can hate on ourselves. And how difficult is it to be kind and nice to somebody else if we're being, introverted and self-obsessed with how awful we are, when actually we can be kind to ourselves and forgive ourselves, and ask for help along the way. And that's some of the things that those people that are really good at acts of kindness quite often are not, as Gina's demonstrated earlier, not very good at accepting it for themselves. So that's a great question. I love that. When we are kind to ourselves, we can then spread that kindness elsewhere. So, charity always starts at home, as they say. So if you haven't done a random act of kindness recently, maybe have a think about, start with yourself. What could you do today that would be really lovely for you, to look after you, to nurture and care for and support you, even if it's just running a long hot bath and having a chill out session. I love you turning right, Caroline. It makes my day. Don't ever be scared of doing that in our company, because that's what we're all about here. Thank you for that. I'm going to swiftly go back to Chris in case Chris is around. Come and talk to us, Chris. But if we don't see anything, I'm going to move on to Louise.
Jill, can I just say at some point, can we talk about B1G1 before the session finishes?
Yes, thank you. Good point. Thank you very much. Yes, well done. Go for it, Louise. What have you got to tell us?
Good morning, my lovely people. Well, really on the back of what Caroline just said, they did a lot of research around in brain development and what happens in our brains. And actually, when we perform acts of kindness, it actually helps us more than the person we're being kind to. So it's interesting when you say the words, well, we need to be kind to ourselves, but actually being kind to others has a direct impact on ourselves. We are to others, the more kindness and empathy we show, actually that changes the brain chemistry and does allow us to feel better about ourselves. So it's chicken and egg. You can do either. But actually being kind to others does have that direct effect on ourselves. And in terms of random acts of kindness, I try and do something twice a day. It doesn't really matter what it is. It can be picking up litter. It can be picking up a piece of litter on the street, because, we know that's good for the environment. I have paid for last week I paid for somebody's breakfast without telling them and just told the person at the till and walked out. I always give to food banks, so there's lots of little things we can do when we're shopping, because I too was brought up, I was quite poor. So I always try, and I have been known in Lidl to run back when I've been paying to go and get something through the food bank, and people are just laughing at me because I'm like doing a supermarket dash around the supermarket thinking, what can I put in? So I think it's things to remember, is the kinder we are to others, that is being kind to ourselves, because we know that now through brain scanning, through MRIs and PET scans. So I think it doesn't matter what we do, it's about connection, and it's about putting a smile on our face, which will put a smile on other people's faces, and that's the round robin, and that's how we kind of close that circle. So, the stories I've heard today, honestly, I'm sat in my dining room just smiling. So your acts of kindness today have helped me smile this morning, which will help me throughout my day. So I want to thank you for that, and that's me.
Oh, fabulous, Louise. That makes perfect sense. I didn't know the science thing. I kind of suspected it, that somebody somewhere would have gone off and done a little study and found out. But it is true. It's about the connection thing. And one of the things at Collaboration Global is we talk about, we don't care how much money you earn. We don't care what you do for a living. You're a human being first, and we love you. We are connected across the planet. And I think this connection thing, by doing something every single day, it's as you say, a round robin. It just goes around. What comes around goes around. Call it karma, call it whatever you want. But by you being kind to others, starting with yourself, as Caroline said, then you will start feeling happier. It just, yeah. And I agree. You're saying you're sitting there with a smile on your face. I am as well. I'm loving all these stories. It's incredible. I mean, Lizzie's just texted me as well. And we'll come back to you, Lizzie, because there's another one she's just thought of. They're coming through thick and fast now. So thank you for that. But yeah, it has a direct impact on ourselves, and it is a chicken and egg situation. Brilliant comment. Thank you for being here, Louise. Appreciate that. I'm going to go to Amir now. Amir, welcome.
Hi, guys.
Hiya.
Hi, guys. A quick one. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya, East Africa. I'm enjoying those things of act of kindness. I think so. If you see my profile, it's just being human to human being. That says a lot. You have to be human to be a human being. And when you do a kindness, you don't have to say. Even if you're not up to do a kindness, you can still do for somebody else. I think so. When you see the happiness on some others' faces, it feels you nice, which is something good. And as Louis said, it's chicken and egg. For me, I do social mentorship, and I feel that happiness when a person feels happy. I know we are running out of time, so I'll just say follow me, and that's it. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks, Amir. Great contribution. Yeah, let's just raise the consciousness of happiness and get it out there, and then we can have a fabulous weekend. I'm going to go to Carolyn now. If you press the right button, Carolyn. I'll come to David in a minute, but hopefully Carolyn's got something to say now.
Hello, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Can you hear me? Oh, good. I don't know what happened earlier.
No worries.
I had a few. Well, I'm trying to think what stories would be most impactful. There's been a few, but one that sticks in my mind is I was on I think it was the Metropolitan line on my way to Uxbridge in London, and I got on the train, and there was this girl who was looking quite uncomfortable because this man was harassing her, and he was just sort of like, hey, you know how men chat you up, but he was not, he wasn't getting the hint that she wasn't interested, and she looked really uncomfortable, and she was quite young. I think she was like 18 or 19 or something. And so I went over and I just went, hey, how are you? Oh my gosh, it's been ages. She looked at me for a moment really puzzled. She was like, huh? And she was like, oh, hi, yeah, no, it's really great to see you, da-da-da-da. And we ended up having this long conversation, found out we had loads in common, good chats. By the time we got to the end of the line at Uxbridge, the man had disappeared. We have no idea when he got off the train or if he said anything. We literally just blanked him out. Don't remember. That was 18 years ago, and she's one of my best friends now, basically.
That's brilliant.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, she's really sweet. She's a real sweetheart. So it's just random. But I mean, yeah, there's loads of other stories, but that one was stuck in my mind just because of the fact that he's 18 years, husband down the line, 2 children. I mean, I don't have kids yet or a husband, but she's got kids, husband, and, we've stuck with each other through thick and thin. So definitely a blessing to have met her.
Oh, what a happy ending to that story. I love it. I'm not sure why I'm getting feedback on this, on your call. Oh, there we go. Now you've muted yourself, Carolyn. I'm not getting the feedback. That's okay. I've had a similar situation where 2 Indian guys were being harassed by a black guy on a train, and me and my friend were sitting opposite. And because we engaged them in conversation, the black guy got fed up. He was very, very drunk, and but he got bored, and so he walked away. And they were like, "Oh, thank you," because they didn't know what to do. They were like, if they'd said something, they were damned. If they didn't say anything, they were damned. He was just angry and ready for a fight. Because these 2 middle-aged British women started having a conversation, he okay, and he just went away. So, you can do it in the strangest of circumstances and just keeping an eye out. So I love that story and the fact you're still friends. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm going to go to Mr. Liddell. What's your story today, David?
Good morning. More of a cautionary tale, actually. It's a number of years ago. I'd been out to somebody else's office Christmas party as a guest, and it was actually at Tiger, so that speaks volumes if anybody's ever been there in Haymarket. I decided to walk back, so it must be about 1 o'clock in the morning when I left. Text my other half to say I'll be back in about 45 minutes because it's not very far to walk. Walking along, got St Thomas's, and there was an old man who didn't look in a particularly good state in a wheelchair on the St Thomas's side of the bridge. And if you've ever been across that bridge, it's got quite a hump to it. So I got chatting to him briefly while I was waiting to cross the road, and he said, "Can you push me across the bridge, please?" I was like, "Yeah, that sounds a dead easy thing to do." So I pushed him across the bridge, and then was looking at the junction and said, "Right, so which way do you want to go?" And he said, "Oh, well, can you push me along the river, please?" I was like, "Right." And anyway, then established he didn't actually want to go across the bridge. He actually wanted to be taken for a walk. So bearing in mind it's 1 o'clock in the morning, I've been in a bar for a number of hours, and I've now taken a potentially vulnerable man in a wheelchair who's not capable of saying no for a walk. So I then took him back over the bridge. So I thought I can't leave him here because if he gets accosted or something, I've just put him somewhere else he shouldn't be. Then ended up going into St Thomas's Hospital because I couldn't leave him because I'd at this point decided he was vulnerable. Went in and went up to one of the nurses and said, "I don't know what to do with this man. You know, I found him outside." And she's like, "Oh, that's ridiculous. How do you mean you find a man in a wheelchair?" We ended up having this nonsense conversation, after which a policeman came over and said, "Look, not a problem at all. I'll sort it out. You can go," which was really, really kind of him. So it was really odd that what had started off by offering to help somebody over the road just turned into a bit of a, oh God, what have I got myself into and what do I do about it? So anyway, then continued to walk home, got in about 3 o'clock, having done this for a lot longer than I'd actually realised. My now wife said, "So where have you been? You said you were leaving at 1 o'clock. And then explained what had happened. She said, "Oh, rubbish. There's absolutely no way you would have done that." And, making up a story about pushing an old man around central London in a wheelchair. It was quite funny. So cautionary tale, if you are doing something that is kind of over and above just buying the drink or something and taking responsibility potentially, think about it, because sometimes people can take that for a ride. I'm not saying that's a negative thing. Actually, all the old guy wanted was someone to talk to. But unfortunately, it was the wrong time, the wrong place to be taking responsibility for his safety. That was it, really.
That's brilliant. It still made me smile for all the wrong reasons. I just have this vision of you going over Westminster Bridge. I know it well. At that time in the morning, not fun. And going to tell me when you said cautionary tale, I thought you were going to say that he was a con man or something, because they do play on people's sympathies, don't they, to try and get something out of you in the short term. But
no, he was a lovely guy. He just wanted to go for a walk.
Yeah.
But, when it's 2-3 in the morning, if anybody was to question why I was pushing a vulnerable individual who I've never met in my entire life along the Thames, it doesn't sound right, does it?
Well, yeah, at least you didn't quite end up being lifelong buddies then, as with Carolyn. Brilliant, thank you. Well, you tried your best, so yeah, it is true. It's you've got to be careful. It's like me helping that guy at the very beginning broken down on a roundabout. I didn't know it was a little old man. I just saw somebody had broken down. It could have been anybody. So, you've got to be safe and you've got to be careful at the same time. Thank you, David. That was fantastic. I'm going to one last time go back to Chris to see if we can hear what his random act of kindness was. Hopefully he didn't just push a button without having something to say. Chris, are you there? Do you want to talk to us today? And if not, I'm going to go back to Lizzie for that final story, which I thought was great that you just sent over to me. Tell us your story, Lizzie.
Hi, in Birmingham, we all the soldiers, when they were injured in Afghanistan, used to come back to the University of Birmingham hospitals where I was posted, and the Prince of Wales used to come every single week. without fail, just sneak in the back, bring something for the staff, just sit with the soldiers, literally who were some unconscious, some conscious, really, really sick with very severe injuries. And it was just the most wonderful thing that he just did without any fuss. No one knew he was there. The press didn't know. And the way he just snuck in the back and sat there and then snuck off again. And I just thought that was a really lovely thing to do.
I love that. That is gorgeous. And you hear that of more and more when somebody's died and it's kind of too late. You hear of all these things that they used to do, like Princess Diana used to go off a lot and there was no press involved and do her thing. And this is the thing, you don't need acknowledgement. You don't need someone to say, oh, well done, that was a really nice thing you did. Because most of us don't actually want that, do we? We just want to be able to do something nice for someone. So, Caroline, going back to you, Caroline, you didn't actually tell us a random act of kindness that you've received or you've given to anybody. You threw a spanner in the works. Is there any story that you've got where somebody's done something lovely for you, or vice versa? No. Okay. Oh, yes, lovely. What have you got?
Sorry, I was at a different part of my phone and trying to desperately get that.
I got there in the end. That's the beauty of Clubhouse, though, isn't it? You can listen to it like a radio, and then you forget if you're going to talk. You go, I've got to go back to the original source.
Oh dear, random acts of kindness. For me, it's just the little things that, when people are just aware of what's going on around you and suddenly you find a door's been opened for you because they realise that you're carrying quite a lot of stuff and just opening a door might be quite difficult. So they just do it. And I think so I'm thinking about awareness and just because I think sometimes we walk around in our own little bubble. And I think we've possibly been doing that in some ways a little bit more since this pandemic because, social distancing and everything else, it makes us feel quite fearful in some ways and sort of inward looking. But just bringing our awareness back, I think, so that we can just see what's going on around us. And then, if we're in the right place at the right time, just go for it.
Yeah. I think your instinct kicks in, doesn't it? You know when it's the right place at the right time. And I agree, something as simple as, opening the door for you. I love that. And that's what I do for other people. And I remember going into a pub once, and this guy opened the door for... my husband opened the door and he went through up to the bar, and then this other guy held the door because he was on his way out but saw that my two daughters were coming in and I was following, and he said, good evening, hello beautiful, and I was like, oh, you just made my day, thank you. And it was just silly things like that as he opened the door before he went out. It was like, you made me smile, I like that, thank you very much. Thank you, Caroline. It's the small things, and it's we can be in our own bubble. I agree. It's so easy to head down, look at your phone, not look sideways and glance at what might be needed for people. Thank you. Good lesson there. Esther, thank you for joining us on our little stage. Hopefully you've got a story of random act of kindness. Were you on the receiving end or the giving end?
Oh, good morning, everyone. Greetings.
Good morning.
From Tanzania.
Welcome, my love. What's your story?
Mine would be, I was actually showed kindness to someone some time back. So in my office, I had this lady who was helping out with cleaning. And I'd always, sometimes I would just see sitting somewhere in a corner, like she's looking a bit down. And I would, go to her and talk to her. And she'd, sometimes she'd confide in me, tell me what stuff is happening in her life. And from time to time, I'd go out of my way and, extend a helping hand, probably, financially. And for me, it was more of just, being human kindness, basically. But it touched her so much. So at one point, I went to my salon, and apparently she's friends with one of the ladies who works there. And she's like, you work in the office with so-and-so? And I'm like, yeah, she helps me around the office. Just to let you know that she really appreciates you're a very kind human being, just for the little things that I do for her that she really appreciated, and that made me really feel so nice.
Oh, it is just beautiful, Esther. It is so true. People do appreciate the little things that you do for them, and they might not tell you to your face, but they'll tell other people about it, won't they?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and we don't need thanks. That's the whole point. When we're doing these things, we're just doing it because we choose to, we want to, and we want to make somebody's life a little bit easier. I remember 100 years ago, I used to be a rent collector, all right? So it's going back a long time. And there was a little old lady that I used to collect for, and she had emphysema, so it took her ages to get to the front door. And she was a grumpy woman because she wasn't well. I mean, I would be grumpy if I was in her position, but she kind of ostracized an awful lot of people. But she put up with me. She tolerated me because I had to collect the rent, and I was, so she, I suppose you want to come in for a cup of tea? I'm like, okay then. And you got past the brash exterior, and you realised that this was a fascinating, intelligent, wonderful woman underneath. And we became friends. So I would leave her collecting her rent until the end of my round, so that I would always go in for a cup of tea, and we'd have a jolly good conversation, sometimes a lunch as well. And then eventually she ended up in a nursing home because her condition deteriorated. But I carried on visiting her there. I didn't have any rent to collect, but I would carry on visiting her because I knew that she needed this stimulation. This brash exterior had to be got through before you could kind of get there. And she used to say that everyone wants you to go to bed at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. She's ridiculous. I don't go to bed at that time of night. So she's like, stay up until 1 or 2 in the morning, and I play poker with a security man. He's amazing. And she was just such a character, so wonderful. But I knew through other people how much she valued me popping in. And I'd only probably pop in,
just change your
once
tone
a
of
fortnight,
voice.
something like that, and it would
So
be
when
half
he's
an hour,
good,
cup
you
of
go,
tea,
"Good boy."
and that
When
was
he's
it.
like
But we
ignoring, you go,
had
"No."
banter, and that's what she'd been missing. Had
So
a
you're not
giggle.
telling him off. He just knows that
And it
it's
didn't take much, and
unacceptable
sadly she
behaviour.
died not soon afterwards. But it was just like I admired her for her chutzpah, for her, brashness, and I think, I wish I could be like that sometimes. And it's always a two-way win. It's always a two-way win in these circumstances. So whenever you can give something, you will get it back. It might not be from the person you've given to, but it'll come back right to you. And we've kind of come to the end. Thank you, Esther. That was lovely. Really appreciate that. Have I missed anybody out? I don't think I have. We've gone through all of those wonderful stories. I'll tell you what, guys, you've certainly cheered me up today. There's so much goodness out there, so much kindness. It's just such a blessing to know that we are not in the minority, we're in the majority, and everyone keep on doing what you're doing. Any last words, Francis?
Yeah, I want to share with you my thing I enjoy doing most. You know, when those delivery drivers come to drop off the food, a card or one of those, and especially if they're older people, I give them whatever's in my pocket, either 10 or 20 pounds tip. You should see their faces.
Yeah.
Because either they never get tipped very low, but every now and again I just give them a £20, whatever note I have, and they say, "Are you sure? Are you sure?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yes, I'm very sure. Enjoy your day."
Yeah.
And it just gives me so much pleasure to do that.
Perfect, because at the end of the day, they're the glue that holds this country together.
Absolutely.
When times get tough, they need to be thanked and they need to be acknowledged, and that's brilliant. I love that. Thank you, Francis. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. What beautiful stories. I've really appreciated this. Keep an eye on the club, please, people, because we might be changing our times in July, but it will always tell you in the club what's going to happen. We have conversations around connection, collaboration, and human spirit. And that's what we're about, connecting people and getting closer. If you fancy coming to meet any of these guys, any of our moderators at a live meeting, we are on the last Tuesday of the month on a Zoom call. Find us on Eventbrite, search for Collaboration Global, or go to the website collaborationglobal.org, and you can book on there as well. And we'll see you next week at some point. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jill. Thanks, Friday.